Welcome to The Big Picture. I'm Phil Arno. Imagine for a moment that the Buffalo Bills just won the right to play in the Super Bowl, ranked number 1 in the league. Hooray for us. And then the game is canceled. Done. No game this year. Good night, turn out the lights. How would we feel? Right. Well, it may not be exactly on that level, but the men's and women's hockey teams from Cornell University both were ranked, mind you, ranked number 1 in the NCAA national rankings. Cornell University, an Ivy League school that doesn't give athletic scholarships, was headed to the NCAA playoffs ranked number 1 in the nation, both the men's and the women's hockey team. They lost, though, but not to another team. They lost to the coronavirus. The championship rug was pulled out from under their ice-clad feet faster than a Jack Eichel slap shot. I know, playing sports is supposed to develop character, but not playing? I bet this one defeat is one that the players never would have dreamed of at the start of the season. And coaches, they have to teach players how to deal with adversity, but maybe not like this adversity. Every so often, this happens, and we have to deal with the new normal. These coaches, they have their work cut out for them. And with me today on The Big Picture are the coaches from the Cornell University ice hockey teams. Doug Dara of the women's ice hockey team and Mike Schaefer, coach of the men's hockey team. Guys, this has got to be heartbreaking for your teams, especially the seniors, but everybody involved. How is this going? How are you dealing with this?
Well, I think that, I think that the initial shock of what initially happened was probably the hardest time, that those 2 or 3 days, because everything was still kind of up in the air. You know, we went from Tuesday and Wednesday of the week where the season was canceled, thinking that we're going to play on the weekend, to the season totally being canceled, and spring sports being canceled. I think those 2 or 3 days initially following that were the most difficult time. Just because the shock of it, the lost opportunity, the excitement that the athletes had for wanting to compete at the national level, and that being taken away from them without many answers. But now I think it's much easier to deal with when you see the impact it's had on society in general. That it's just sports is just one small area, and I think that's been a much more easier pill to swallow when you know that people didn't overreact at the time, and you're seeing the struggles that other people are going through at this present time. It makes it much more understandable why the steps were taken, and that lost opportunity is more understandable.
Yeah, and Doug, there's like 6 women on the women's hockey team that are seniors, and I guess 3 on the men's hockey team. But Doug, what do you say to the seniors that have played the whole season and their hockey careers, and now it's come to the end? They had a chance to go to a championship, and it ends like this. How do you, especially the seniors, what can you say to them to help?
I don't know if there's anything you can really say to them that helps. It was very difficult for them, for sure. It was difficult for the entire team. Everybody loses that opportunity to play in the national championship, but we were fortunate enough to have finished our Ivy League season. We completed our ECAC season. Obviously, the NCAA championships is the biggest part of it, but at least we got to have those moments and have those memories. And we won the Ivy League championship. We won the ECAC regular season and went undefeated in that season. So we had a lot to be proud of, and the team had a lot to be proud of. But certainly, we've had a number of great teams here at Cornell over the years, but this is the first time in our history that we had been ranked number 1 going into the NCAA tournament. So was particularly devastating in that regard. But at the time, you also have to look at the spring sports that did not even get to have their season. So we were, somewhat fortunate in that we did get to share a lot of great memories. We got to have a lot of great games and some championships. And as Coach Schaefer just mentioned, there was obviously bigger things happening in the world outside of sport. But certainly at the time it was difficult. But I think, in a small way, that's something that we espouse as coaches. We talk about, fighting through adversity and learning to handle those tough moments in life. And, sports is hopefully a little bit of a microcosm of life as a whole, and learning to deal with these kind of situations in life. Hopefully we've helped them in some small way to be able to do that.
Well, it's certainly a character building experience, because I can't imagine a hockey, a sports career or college level coming to this unusual ending, not building a certain amount of tolerance for hardship. You learn to deal with things, and that's one of the good things about sports. You learn to win and lose, and you learn to deal with adversity. There's injuries and there's hard work and so on. You guys, it's an Ivy League school. It's not a powerhouse in terms of national sports, but you're both ranked number one in your respective, men's hockey and women's hockey. Has that ever happened before from the same school, in your knowledge? That seems unusual to me, especially coming from a school that isn't the biggest school, and you guys don't give athletic scholarships either. That even makes it harder.
Yeah, I think it happened. Maybe Doug knows the program. It happened back in maybe the early '90s. But I think that what for us is that hockey is such a huge has a huge place on our campus, both men's and women's hockey. And we have sold out crowds in here. And I was talking to Doug just the other day that the women's team drew a great crowd in their playoffs and their championship, and so the interest in our sport, but on campus is definitely recognized as one of the across the country as a national sport. And so I think that anytime you become ranked number one in the country, and that's in the USA Today, and it's on publications and it's out there in media, I think it's outstanding for Cornell University, and I think it's outstanding for both our men's and women's teams, and that we were able to share that honor together at the exact same time. And I think that it's really, really unique for an institution to be able to talk about that and see that happen and live it and experience it. And so that was great for our Ithaca community, Cornell community, and great for both programs to have that kind of experience.
Well, our business manager here at the station, who did play for you guys, Catherine Morrow, who was Catherine Lepresti at the time, she set up this interview, and she said that the atmosphere on campus for hockey, and women's hockey, men's hockey, it just goes crazy. They just love their hockey teams, and it's so enthusiastic. I'm sure the whole school is disappointed when this had to be canceled, and it's I can't imagine how everybody feels, especially with the rankings the way they were. When you have a program that doesn't give scholarships, does that make it extra tough to get recruiting done on this level? With the situation the way it is now, what we're dealing with, and with high schools, arguably they're going to have trouble with their programs. How is this going to affect you with recruiting under these circumstances? Is this a great big unknown, or do you have any idea how this is going to unfold?
You hear the word fluid being used a lot, and so it's ever changing, and it's hard to predict exactly where this is headed. I tend to be optimistic and think that it might be a new normal, but it'll be relatively normal come the fall when we start up again. I think each school and each institution, whether you're a scholarship school or you're an Ivy League school, has its challenges in recruiting. I think we're very fortunate here at Cornell, as Coach Schaefer just said, to have the level of support, the atmosphere that we have, the fans that we have. here at Cornell, the experience that you get in hockey. We've been, somewhat relatively successful, obviously having both teams be number one this past year. So there's the hockey aspect of it, but then you also have an opportunity to get an education at an Ivy League school, at a school where it's founded on the premise of any person, any study. So, no matter what somebody wants to study, we have just about everything available to them. So there's a lot of positives to Cornell, and being able to set yourself up for the rest of your life and in this competitive global workplace, I think is key. And I think that recruits that we are talking to, there's lots of great schools out there that have great hockey programs. There's lots of schools out there that have great academics, but to find the combination of both that you can get here at Cornell is very difficult to find. And so, it definitely has to be a certain type of recruit, and it has to be a match for both the school and for the recruit. But every school has its challenges, as do we.
Say, Coach Schaefer, when this happened, was it the NCAA that made the decision? Were the teams consulted as to whether or not this should go on, or whether it was going to be canceled? Or did they just call you and say, hey, we've decided that, we're going to call this whole thing off?
You had teams, it started off with an our league, Harvard, pulling out of our league playoffs. And probably within 24 hours, our league talked about, a certain amount of teams going to the league championship. And then probably within a 4-hour span, it went from spring sports just got canceled. Ivy League basketball canceled their tournament. Ivy League canceled their spring sports. And, I really think that what happened as soon as I believe it was the SEC, as soon as they canceled their basketball tournament, everything just probably within a 2-hour period, everybody just came across, and Twitter and every other social media platform that's out there was loud and clear that, sports weren't going to continue on in the NCAA. So I don't know if Doug got a call, but we never did get a call. It just, it was released very quickly that the NCAA had canceled their tournament and the teams had canceled their spring sports. So, as a coach, it didn't take me long to figure out that, things have all shut down across college sports.
Well, was there ever a time when you guys held hope that maybe, I know like the NHL, I'm not sure whether they're still kind of trying to decide whether they can resume playoffs at some point in the future, but they haven't, I think, closed the door on that. Was there ever a time, over the first few weeks or whatever, that you could maybe postpone the playoffs, or was it just a flat out, that's it for the year, we're done?
The way it kind of all fell together, it was, the Ivy League had ended their sports and were canceling their sports. ECAC then had ended their championship on the men's side, but for us on the women's side, we had already completed our Ivy League season. We had completed the ECAC season, so we were waiting for the NCAA. Certainly, as Coach Schaefer alluded to, there was a lot going on social media, so it looked like it wasn't going to happen. But up until Thursday, we had been told that we were going to play on Saturday with no fans in the building. And so, even though it didn't look very good, we had to kind of continue to plan as scheduled. And we found out Thursday afternoon officially at 4 p.m. And we were about to have a team meeting and practice right after that. So it didn't give us long to prepare what we were going to say to the players. But we only had 2 weeks left to go. We had, one round of NCAAs and then the NCAA Frozen Four, and then our season was over. So we knew once they started canceling things, there was very little chance of us being able to get that back.
Okay, hold that thought. We're almost out of time for this segment. We're gonna take a short break, and we'll be back right after this.